So thank you very much for making it here. A little difficult after lunch, I know. This is always like a heavy burden to have this spot. I hope I can make it worth to you. So what I'm going to do actually is, of course I have my keynote prepared, but I also would like that you guys bombard me with questions whenever you want. So not at the end, but hopefully maybe interrupting me and asking about what we're talking, or if you have any doubts or anything, please feel free to do that. We don't have to wait for the end to do that, okay? So what I'm going to talk about is storytelling, machine learning, and branding. So it's like three more or less different things, but I'm going to try and tie it all together for you so that it makes sense. I hope I do. And if not, please interrupt me at any moment. So I'm going to start with a little story. So many, many years ago, we had a goddess, and this was the goddess of time. And time was our favorite goddess as human beings because it gave us time, and it flew from within. So everybody had enough time to do whatever they wanted to do. We didn't lack of time. And sometimes you still feel it when you're doing something you really like. Time flies, and it's very quick. But when you're doing something that you don't like, it goes like super slow and takes like forever, right? So this was a moment when time was king. But we human beings are very curious, and we are also very ambitious. So we thought, why not take control over time and take that from the goddess? So we invented something we called the clock, right? Or the watch, the clock. So the clock basically chained the goddess of time. And suddenly, time didn't flow from within, but was dictated by an external device like the clock. So people started to have a little less time because it wasn't coming from within. But then we had this other guy. He was another god, and he was not very famous at that moment, but he thought, this is my opportunity. And this was the god of money. So he's a very smart guy, and he's also a great marketer. So he came up with this great campaign, and he hit the streets and called it, "Time is Money." So humans said, hey, that's great. I can trade my time, which is free, for money, which makes me rich, which is awesome. So let's do that. Let's trade time for money. And this guy became our favorite god all of a sudden, and we forgot about the other goddess, poor lady in chains, and went with the time of the god of money. So this went great for a time, and then this happened, right? Like corporate capitalism. We started having one single purpose, which was increase profit. Every business, increase profit. Do more with less time. Do quicker, do faster, do more and more and more and more, with almost no end in sight, because you can never have enough profit. We can never have enough money, but we trade everything for it. So the thing is, we not only traded time, but also at some point, this, I call it predatory capitalism, started also affecting people's lives. We started caring more about the profit than about our employees, or even our clients, right? Like, get as much out of your client as you can, as much as you can, and once they're like drawn, then let them go. And that also from your partners. Many of you are marketers and know that, probably have faced at some point in time a client that cared only about profit and used you kind of in a predatory way. So, but I think things are changing. So my name is Alvaro Melendez. So you said it right, yeah, Alvaro. And I spent most of my career in creative marketing and creativity. But now I made it my mission to change how we do marketing. So move away from this like very predatory thing into something more symbiotic, where we can all thrive and we can all do something of much more interesting, right? More creative, more inclusive, caring and thoughtful. And all this through the use of creativity and technology, which sometimes seems to be like they're opposed, but in reality, they're very, very much the same. So the first part is going to be storytelling. Remember, I mean, here, not many questions because it was just a silly story, but now you can maybe ask questions if you have. So about storytelling. So most of you are in marketing, right? Yes? Más o menos, yeah? Yes. A little bit, yeah, okay. So we had this huge pandemic, right? Like a very bad thing, people dying, people getting sick. We were all affected. Everybody in the world was affected. And we only do marketing, right? And we were like, okay, what can we do? We do marketing. And then we had the doctors and the frontline workers and the scientists coming up with vaccines, and we do marketing. And like, oh, what can we do? What can we do? So we would always, at least me and many people that I have talked to, we felt like powerless. Like, so marketing is interesting sometimes, but when it comes down to live or die, marketing like is not so important anymore. Not so much, really. We might forget, or some people might not know, that we were not the only Homo species on the planet, right? There was the Homo neanderthalis and the Homo erectus, and these guys roamed the world at the same time as we did. We can't imagine. I mean, it's too weird to have like another like kind of human-like species at the same time. But it was like that many years ago. The thing is, we dominated them and eventually drove them to extinction. And we also dominated every other species in the world. So how did we do that if we are definitely not faster and we're definitely not stronger than any of these competitors? But we have something that no other species in the world can do, which is the ability to create stories. And the ability to create stories, fiction, we can make them up, right? Like what I just did with time. And you guys do that all the time. Come up with fiction. That enables the human race to collaborate in millions and numbers that no other species can do. So all of our greatest achievements, right? Call it whatever you guys think is the greatest achievement, but going to the moon, building the internet, all those, we couldn't have done that without the collaboration of millions and millions of people, different cultures, different races, different gender, different age, all collaborating on the same thing. Why? Because they believe in that story. They believe the story that going to the moon is a good idea, and I want to go to the moon, I want to help go to the moon, so I'm going to work for that. Right? We see that all the time. Dogecoin, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dogecoin. Also, great story, right? Who said what? We like it or don't we like it? I don't know. We like it, yeah? Much wow, to the moon. So Dogecoin, right? I'm no influencer also, it wasn't affected, but if it was Ellen, it was good. Right? Anyway, Dogecoin is a story, and people are investing money in that story, and people are like really engaged. But not only money like is a story, brands as well. So take for example Dove. Dove used to be a soap with, I think it was a quarter of cream, right? That's what Dove used to be. And then they said, no, that's not a good story. We can have a better story, which is beauty should be a source of confidence and not a source of anxiety. That's going to be our story. We're still going to do our soap the way we did, but that's going to be our story. And suddenly, Dove goes from also being bankrupt, almost being bankrupt, to being one of the biggest beauty brands in the world today. And that happens because people believe in that story, follow that brand, engage with that brand, become fans, and buy the products. So it's not one thing or the other, it's both. Like I'm all in. I'm all in with that brand, for example. And the thing is, all of you sitting here, we are the creators of that type of stories. Big, small, medium, doesn't matter. We create the stories that change behavior, that change communities, that eventually change the world. Because we change behavior through the stories that we create. So my message here is, hopefully those stories that we're creating do a better world and not a less better world, right? We want to do a better world. We want to have a better place to live. So we have that power. So no, we're not doctors, we're not scientists, but we're very powerful. We probably have the only superpower that humanity has, which is the ability to create fiction. We can come up with whatever we want, people can believe it, and it can help us thrive. So my second part is about machine learning and creative branding. I don't need to explain this. Most of us deal with social media and the storytelling platform that we have today. We never had something this big, right? I mean, most of you are very young. The older people like me, we used to do TV, we used to do radio and things like that, and that cost a lot of money, and only some brands were able to afford that. But now, not anymore. Everybody, like a 9-year-old kid like Ryan KG, can have his YouTube channel, and he has 10 times more followers than Coca-Cola. 10 times more followers, and this is a 9-year-old kid. But that's not all. He generated $30 million through his YouTube channel, which is a lot, right? And he did that because he's a great story, because he's very, very interesting. If you guys have seen it, you will probably enjoy it. If not, maybe you want to check him out. So this is possible, not just for Ryan, but for all of us and for our businesses and for our clients. The bad thing about social media is that I think they're like wild horses. So wild horses are very beautiful, right? We love them, we like them. They're very strong, they're very fast, but they're very wild. So every platform is like a different wild horse, and they all run like crazy. And if we don't brace ourselves, they can kill us just by running over us, right? We don't want that. And why is that? Because the velocity and the volume of the data that comes from social media is something that we have never seen before. We've never faced such a massive amount of of data before. So we can't really, as marketers, we're not prepared to deal with this. And that's where our friend, machine learning, comes in. Because it turns out machine learning wants to be our friend, right? Some people think it's going to be like a bad robot that's going to kill us. I hope it doesn't. This one wants to be our friend. So machine learning loves the velocity and the volume of data. That's what it loves. So what it wants to do is to help us turn that flow of big data into something of value for the people. So turn data into something of value for the people. And that is what a good brand is. Value for the people. A promise, something interesting, something of value for the people. So machine learning can help us do that. For example, 80% of all the information that we receive, it goes through the means of our sight. So we're very visual beings, right? That's why slides help, and the magazine and social media, Instagram, we love Instagram because it's images. So we perceive a lot of what we get information through the means of our sight. But as marketers, we had a little problem, which is images are very difficult to turn into action, into data, right? Like measure images, like it's difficult. It was very difficult. So improving something that you cannot measure is very difficult. And this is where machine learning comes in. So this is a computer vision model. What it does, remember, you can always ask questions, right? I'm not going to stop for it, but please interrupt me, and I can see you. We're small crowd, so I think I can hear you as well. So machine learning comes in, and I wanna describe this as Winnie the Pooh, right? We're all familiar. We remember this guy, Winnie the Pooh, very friendly. And he used to describe things like, oh, I see a tree. Oh, I see water. I see green. I see hair. I see a boat. I see sky, blah, 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 blah. He described everything he saw, and machine learning does the same. The thing is, it does it at scale. So it can identify thousands of features in every image. And let me give you a little glimpse behind the scenes. So this is a video taken from a screen. We're going to look at the Walt Disney Instagram feed. So we're going to take one image. In this example, we're taking the Beauty and the Beast, and we're going to feed it into the machine learning model. This one is called computer vision. It's going to look at it, and it's going to identify a set of features, right? So yellow, interaction, tradition, all the features that it saw. Then we're going to go there, get all the rest of the images, which can be hundreds or thousands or millions, depending on the brands we're interpreting. And then we're going to turn that into graphs. And once we have the data, then it's up to us, human beings, to decide what we want to do with this. So let me see if I can. Oh, I wanted to go back here. I hope you didn't see that. You didn't? Where was it? Okay. So Walt Disney, right? We analyzed the whole Instagram feed of Walt Disney. And here comes the question. Like, what is the single most engaging feature for Walt Disney on Instagram? What is it? Guess. Kids? Mickey Mouse ears? Yeah. What's up? Ah, yeah, Elsa. Okay. What else? None of that is. Huh? The castle? No. Colors? No. Nope. Eyes? Nope. I mean, we could stay like this, like for it's thousands of features. So you won't come up with it because it's difficult, yeah, right? We're humans, we're not machines. So the single most engaging feature on the Instagram from Walt Disney World is drinkware. Drinkware, more than Walt Disney, more than Mickey, more than the ears, more than the castle, more than all that. Drinkware, okay? And this is the single most engaging image that is tagged with drinkware there. And if you look at the other features, which is, I'm sorry, it's very small, but I'm going to read them, like leg, table, dishware, shorts. Remember shorts, that's going to be important at some point. Shorts, orange, spire, well, many, many different. You don't see Mickey there. So this is interesting because Walt Disney is one of the most, let's say, well-defined brands we know, right? Everybody knows what Walt Disney is. And still, their Instagram images, the most engaging feature, might be something different, which is not bad, it's good. Third part, making branding trackable. So every brand has exactly the same goal, right? Yes, they want to make money, but let's put that aside for a moment. The second one is they want to be the most relevant brand they can. And relevant doesn't necessarily only mean engagement. They want to be relevant. Because relevance is you're standing out from the competition, you're providing value because people are being interested in what you do, and probably people are going to engage with you. And they will want to have a conversation with you because you're relevant to me. You are a relevant brand. But the problem we have is that tracking brands and making that data actionable is very difficult, very difficult. So we marketers have come up with great solutions for doing campaign performance, right? That we can optimize against clicks, views, leads, all that. We're very good at that. We're almost automating that, so that's, let's say, on a good path. But brand performance, not so much. That's still in the dark ages. So the big brands that do brand tracking, they still, and you won't believe it, but they still do surveys. Ask people what they think about their brands. And that's how they track brand. And the surveys are very expensive, so they do that once a year or maybe once every 6 months. So not very trackable. So my thesis is we can use machine learning to improve brand performance and make creative branding much more trackable and much more actionable. So we call this PTAI. I hope you hate it as much as I do, the name, but it's very practical. So PTAI, because it helps us understand how it works. So PTAI is a branding model that we developed. We want to say it grew on the shoulder of giants, of other like branding models like the Big Ideal from Ogilvy, Love Marks from Saatchi, the Golden Circle, if you know that, from Simon Sinek. So there's many, many, many great strategy models. But what we did for this one specifically is, what are the capabilities that technology and specifically machine learning can offer today, and how can we put those two things together? So how can we take the branding theory and the technology and put it together and try and come up with a solution of brand tracking? So the P stands for promise. A brand is a symbol. A symbol for what? A symbol for a promise. So just to take the same example, Dove, I promise you, I will help make beauty a source of confidence and not anxiety. That's the promise. And their purpose is basically to fulfill that promise. But a brand is not just one thing. A brand is many different things. And that's what we call territories. So for example, Disney might be a thing in the territory of magic, let's say for the kids or for the grown-ups. Magic is maybe one territory, but then they're also like a super innovative company. They have great technology, so they're another thing in the innovation space. And then they're also great at customer experience, which is yet another territory. So every brand is active and lives in different territories, and not all are the same, and not everywhere we have the same competitors. The third layer is attributes. Attributes means, what exactly is your brand? Like I was saying in the case of Disney, so we all know, and you said it, like Mickey is one attribute, magic is another attribute, and those are words, concepts we can write. But then there's other attributes that we cannot, which are visual attributes. So for example, fireworks. Fireworks is a visual attribute for Disney because they celebrate every night with fireworks. So that's very important for them on the visual, not on the language side. And the last part is influencers and ambassadors. Why this? Because if you as a brand have influencers as ambassadors, it means you are fulfilling your promise. And people are happy with what you're doing, and they're happy to tell it to other people, and maybe make them come to your brand, maybe become fans as well. So this is the PTAI. So this was the boring part, but it was important for you to know it so that I can talk about the examples, which is what we, I think, all like to see. So I was talking about Dove, talked a lot about it. Here's the promise: make beauty a source of confidence and not anxiety. They do that. They have been doing that for the last maybe 10 years, something like that. But here's interesting. So when we start putting data behind it, and I'm intentionally comparing Dove to Ollie, which is not a direct competitor, but are you familiar with Ollie? Do you know that brand? No? So Ollie is like multivitamins. Still very big brand, very, very interesting, colorful, youthful, beautiful brand. So they compete with Centrum, for example, still in health, right? So we're comparing those two. So we throw them all together and we look at brand love. So how relevant is a brand for their audiences? And we see that Dove is the blue line. All year long, they're on top. They have their ups and downs, but they're always on top. And every other brand, and again, this is not necessarily direct competitors everywhere, they're all behind it. And we have big brands there, like GSK, in a year where COVID and healthcare was very important, right? We have Advil, Bayer, we have big brands there. So this is brand love, and we're looking at how we can measure this. And then, why are they so good at brand love? Because they have the highest average engagement per post across all platforms. So Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. That's what we did for this exercise. So That means every post that Dove puts out there generates more engagement in average than any of the competitors. But you can see that Ollie is really close to it, right? So they're close to it. Here's where it becomes interesting. So once you split it down into territories, and we look at the territory of self-care, Dove suddenly is much bigger, because self-care is where Dove wants to dominate. So there they are, dominating in the territories where they want to be. The thing is, if we as marketers or the brands don't know about the territories and can't measure them, it's going to be very difficult to improve our performance where we want to do it. So let's look at another example, Delta versus Alaska. So in this case, direct competitors, both airlines, one very well-established brand, Delta, and a fresh, crazy challenger like Alaska. So we see Delta actually has a much lower average engagement per post than Alaska. So Alaska outperforms them by far with every post they do. But in the territory of DEI, which is priority for Delta, they do much better. Alaska does still better, but the difference is much smaller. So we can start playing with that. And I want to show you this because I mentioned those are the territories, but now we want to go and look at the attributes, like real specific keywords that are working. So here, we're going to go into the data, and what we will see is that we have Alaska and Delta, all the words, with how relevant they are, the frequency and the sentiment and all this. We see a word like sorry. When we click at sorry, we see that it's present in both, in Delta and in Alaska. And we can see how it behaves over time and all the messages related to sorry and all that. The thing is, this is a word used for customer service, so not much differentiation to be generated with this word. So what else do we have there? For example, Alaska Safety Dance. Alaska Safety Dance is the third more relevant word for Alaska. So that's a lot. And if we click on that and see what they mean with Alaska Safety Dance, we see for example, an Instagram post like this, right? This is not Delta, this is Alaska. And this stands for what Alaska stands for. Like what I wanted to say from the beginning, right? Like story. We don't need to be boring. Nobody's gonna bore people into buying anything. So we can be fun, we can be interesting. Doesn't mean to make everybody laugh all the time, but we can be a little better there. So if we look at the words, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So the gentleman was asking if we talk about keywords, if that's like search keywords. It is not. In this case, we're analyzing organic social. So what does that mean? Every post and every comment, that's important, on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So those 5. So if the word comes up in the comment or in the post itself or in the comment, it's going to be captured. And then you can filter in, But yeah, thank you for clarifying, for helping me. Okay, so here if you look at the words by Delta, you're going to see a lot of like your standard category chatter, like assistance, volume, confirmation, very boring stuff. And then also names, like made-up names, right? We create fiction, like Caesar and Sean and Cami, which are basically probably robots that are doing the customer service. But if you look at Alaska, you see the Alaska Safety Dance up there. It's a fun thing, it drives differentiation, and I think that's what they want to do. Yeah, we have another question.
I'm curious as to how do you get that organic keyword search? Like, how are you figuring out these organic keywords?
Yeah, thank you. So the question is, how are we getting those keywords? So I'm not going to go too much into detail because of time, but what we do is we can connect to all the APIs, right, to each platform, get all the data. When I mean all the data, I mean all the data, no samples, So it's not 20% of the posts, it's 100% of the posts, 100% of the comments that are public, right? If somebody puts like a private, then no. Everything public. And then we use a machine learning model called LDA, which does like topic modeling. And what it does is it defines the territories. So for example, as I was saying, or here, we have the love traveling territory. Love traveling, emotional reactions to traveling. So that's a territory defined by the LDA model. And then we can have all the keywords that come up in that territory. And that's a mixed human and technology collaboration where we can define strategically what type of keywords, what type of words we want to track for each of these territories. Yeah, that's a great question as well. No, we pull 100% of the data. We don't filter anything. The keywords come after that. Unless the only platform where you can do that is Twitter. If you're interested in for example, looking for a specific keyword that might not be part of your brand, but you're interested anyway of doing it, you can do that just on Twitter. That's the only platform that allows that type of search. But here is everything. Thank you for the questions, guys. Makes it much more interesting for me as well. Netflix versus T-Mobile. So why am I doing this? If we look at the telecommunication industry, and this is something that I'm sure you as marketers feel all the time. When we work with a specific category and a specific brand, they become blind to everything else. They just look at their competitors, and they keep repeating what the competitors do and learn from the same all the time, which becomes like this vicious circle of just making category norms out of nowhere. So when we compare T-Mobile versus Netflix, we get very different brands that both are in the business of entertainment. Different entertainment, but both there. So I don't need to introduce you to Netflix. Netflix drives engagement like no other brand. Like you can't see the lines for all the telco companies because they're so flat against Netflix. Netflix is huge, but there you have AT&T Global, you have T-Mobile, you have Vodafone, you have European Verizon. You have brands from everywhere, and nobody competes against Netflix. Nobody can reach the engagement that they do. So what is it that they do so well? Going back to image analysis, and now, sorry, let me clarify this. We talked about keywords, so written things. Now we're looking at visual features. This is not written anywhere. It's just what the computer vision is identifying in the image, but it's not written. It's not like manually tagged, okay? So when we look at the Instagram feed by T-Mobile, you see the most engaging feature is font, and then magenta, and then brand. Super boring, mega boring. Look at the engagement, 1.5K, nothing. Netflix, 350K, with a feature like Shorts. Remember I told you Disney Shorts, that's gonna be important. Shorts, here as well on Netflix. So when we look at T-Mobile, it looks like advertising, right? And we love advertising, but we hate advertising. So we don't want to see that on Instagram. We want to see nice stuff, right? Not that, okay? If you look at Netflix, no advertising at all. This looks like a cool feed with amazing, interesting people doing interesting stuff. And if you look at Shorts, and I just want to point that out, it's not just women wearing shorts. We also have men wearing shorts, right? Those are the top 3 images labeled with shorts. And if you look at the rest of the features, like thigh, tree, standing, leisure, leg, waist, shirt, it looks almost like a fashion brand. We've talked a lot about fashion. If you look at Netflix, it looks like a fashion brand, not like a streaming brand. Destinations, NYC versus Austin. Again, very established challenger. Someone here from NYC? You guys love your city, right? Someone here from Austin? Yeah, okay. So I don't want to hurt nobody. I hope you don't work for the DMOs. Anyway, Austin is not very good at this. I'm sorry. New York City is more or less good at it, but also not very good. But what's interesting is when we compare those two, very different cities, right? Look at the top engaging post feature for both. In the case of New York, it's fog. In the case of Austin, it's BioMe, which I had to look up. But BioMe is basically like, I mean, you guys know what it is, right? I can't explain it. It's like a land mass, like something biological, like in a mass, something like that. Anyway, the top engaging features labeled with those two are those images. You see very similar. So you wouldn't think of New York, I mean, yes, we all know New York when it's cold, but that's not like what you would expect to be the most engaging thing. And more so for Austin, because Austin isn't like positioned as like a snow destination, I guess. But that gives, yes?
So what do you do with this information? So if you know that like shorts gets the most engagement from a specific post or many posts, do you just do more of those? Is that what this is like to get more engagement in the future? You find out what's getting more engagement in your history and then you just
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. What we do with it, I would say it depends, right? But in general, what we would do is, so for example, if you're T-Mobile and you don't have anything in your history because you're very bad, but you can look at Netflix or you can look at Walt Disney or you can look at whoever you want and you say, hey, these guys are using this and this works really well. And this could be part of our story as well, right? I don't want to force you to do drinkware. If you're T-Mobile, there's nothing you can do, but maybe you can use shorts or eyewear or other like fashion stuff. Like you could say, hey, let's post a little bit more of that and see how it works. You're gonna see that in a day. You're gonna see that in 2 days. It's gonna be very quick. So what we are suggesting is, and that's why the PTAA model is important, is you go from the bottom, you're very tactical, up to the purpose. Is it important for your promise that you have shorts or drinkware or whatever? Then do it and make it part of your territory and define it and do it intentionally. So basically it's plan with it. Do your strategy based on it. Don't improvise and hope and pray. No, you can do it. You can plan how your brand is going to perform. But I mean, we're all creative, so I hope you guys have better ideas on what we could do with something like this, right? Thank you for the question. The last piece was influencers and ambassadors. So Forbes publishes this article, like the top 50 CMOs of the world. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was like in November. And then these are the top like 14 of those. And we see some very big names there, like Apple and Fernando Machado or Stephanie McMahon. Really big people. Now, what is Forbes doing? I don't know how they selected them, but they selected them and said 1, 2, 3. I think those are the most engaging. So we were interested in, okay, what are these influencers, these executives, doing for their brand and how is it working? Are they really influential or not so much? So in this case, we looked at just LinkedIn. We're not interested in what they post on Instagram, just LinkedIn, professional, right? And we see that Fernando Machado is the one with the highest average engagement per post in the top CMOs. So by the way, let me go back one. Phil Schiller, Apple, we didn't do because he's not on LinkedIn. So he works for Apple. LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. Maybe that's why. But he's not on LinkedIn, so that's why he's out of the equation, just for your information. But Fernando Machado is the strongest in average engagement per post. And this we can define also by territories, which we're not going to do now. But what is he posting about? How is he generating that engagement? This idea is you're marketers, so order from McDonald's. Famous campaign done in France during COVID. The Moldy Whopper, did you guys see that? That was before COVID. And nobody saw it? Yeah, 1, 2, okay. Everybody else, see it. It's like a great campaign. What did they do? They said, our hamburger is so natural that it will grow mold. So we're just gonna leave it there like for days and do like a video of it growing mold day over day, and at the end it looked something like that. So very, very disruptive for the food industry, right? But exactly what they want to do, because they want to say our stuff is no plastic, like McDonald's, right? Our stuff is real stuff, so it gets bad. Moldy Whopper, super success, won like 2 Grand Prix in Cannes this week. So very, very interesting. Anyway, Fernando Machado posting about that. And the third one is interesting as well, Tiger King. Why is this interesting? Did you guys see the Tiger King? That's the name, right? It's Tiger King? Okay, the series, right? You saw that. That was like very early in the pandemic. So Burger King, Tiger King, like, of course the brand wouldn't do it, but somebody, a guy called Boss Logic did it, and Fernando Machado just reposted it. So no brand approval, no legal, nothing. He just reposted consumer-generated content. The third most engaging post over the year on LinkedIn. So what I want to say is this person, Fernando Machado, who sadly left Burger King and went to Activision, he was one of the main influencers for Burger King, not only in doing the work, but also in sharing the work with the world. So very, very important. So to the numbers, because yes, we all need to have success, what you see in the blue line is the average growth in engagement by the whole category. And this is MedTech. It's a little complicated. So we put all the companies in MedTech together and track how they're growing engagement every month. So in this case, they're growing more or less 300 in engagement score. And then we compared that to another brand that was using ML for branding purposes, and they're growing 9,500 times engagement score every month. That's 30 times what the average in the category is growing. So what I want to say with this is it works. It's not super fast. Remember, this is organic. And I want to point out that paid media is different. This is organic. Organic is where you build true love, because people are going to follow you organically if they love you. The advertising, they don't have a choice to not see you. But organic, they do have a choice. So if you have a strong organic presence, you have a much, much stronger potential to grow your brand than just relying on paid. And that is why it is important. Okay, everybody, so thank you very much. As I said, you are marketers. You have the power to create this type of stories. And I hope you can reshape the world and make it less predatory and more symbiotic, a nice place for you, for me, for all of us. Thank you very much, and I'll take more questions. I don't know if I can.